Hello and welcome to Economy and Markets TV, where we have conversations with a purpose. I'm your host, Dave Oakenquist, Senior Research Analyst here at Dent. Joining me today is Rodney Johnson, the Senior Editor of Dent Research, the editor of Boom and Bust. Rodney, how are you?
I'm well, Dave.
Great to have you here. I wanted to bring you on for a topic that you've written about a lot and one that you and I have also spoken about, which is the enigmatic company of Tesla and, of course, its CEO. Elon Musk, or at least CEO for now. There's been a lot of craziness going on around Elon and the company Tesla. I really like him. I really like Tesla, the product, and I like, the Hyperloop. It's cool. It all sounds great. It's, forward thinking. But as an investment, that's where you part with it, right?
Yeah, and how could you not like a company whose CEO markets a flamethrower, like for the everyday guy? I mean, what a cool deal. And I'm not sure how many people know, but he also sold surfboards recently. You can have a Tesla surfboard. Yeah. And so he's a lot of fun, obviously, and certainly a very smart person. Rockets, one of the creators of PayPal. Yeah. And so there's a lot of money there. But the problem with starting a car company is you can't just make a car. You have to make it. You have to market it. You have to get it into people's hands, which implies a dealership in many states, which don't allow you to sell a car without a dealership. Mm-hmm. Then you have to maintain them. And people forget that interesting point of once a car is on the road, if it breaks down, how do you service the dumb thing? Well, Tesla doesn't really create extra parts. And so a lot of the people who work on Teslas, their mechanics, manufacture them out of 3D printing. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. And so from the very beginning, we've said a couple of things that you and I talked about, both, on and off air. I love Teslas. Yeah. I am certainly one of those guys who wants a Tesla Roadster. It is one of the hottest cars. The old one, the one from 5-6 years ago, they don't make anymore, much less the new one. And so I would love to have one, but that doesn't mean I think they're a good investment. Right. And so the company is burning cash. They're burning hundreds of millions of dollars. They're going to need more money as they continue production of the Model 3. And they're bumping up against a couple of things that are going to be very difficult. One, they have convertible bonds coming due that they will have to pay on. And so that's going to be a cash burn. And the second thing is competition. And that is something you and I have talked about all year this year. You've got Mercedes coming on, BMW coming on, Jaguar actually producing and shipping electric vehicles. And it's going to be very difficult for Tesla to stay in the game with these other high-end producers able to flow their electric vehicles through their existing dealerships and service centers. And that's just going to be a very, very difficult position for them.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely looks like an uphill battle. Now, just to review over some of the craziness that's been going on over the past couple of weeks when Elon Musk mused the idea of going private at $4.20 a share, funding secured.
And it wasn't really secure, and it wasn't really public. When it came to it, his idea was, well, I'll ask a lot of the people who are investors to remain investors. I won't buy their shares from them. They'll just be in this weird pseudo class thing of private investment. And all these institutional investors said, we have a class called private investment, and it's about this big, and we can't have more than that. So if you do this, we have to sell our shares. And then the whole bit about funding secure, it really wasn't. So it really is.
Yeah, and actually, now that I think about it, that wasn't even really what started it. I believe it was a conference call with investors that really kicked this off and saying, these are boring questions about when are you going to meet your production goals?
Yep. Simple things like, when will you produce enough cars like you said you are? Yeah, but Elon Musk he's never met a production target that he couldn't fail to meet, fail to produce. And so it's been interesting to watch him fail repeatedly, and yet people keep hoping because you want him to succeed. Yes. You want the idea of electric vehicles to come to fruition, have enough range to get rid of range anxiety. You want enough infrastructure for us to be able to recharge. I get all that. I mean, I'm one of those people kind of rooting for this movement. Yeah. This particular vehicle, and yes, that pun was intended, may not be the one as a public company to do that. Mm. And his latest foray onto television late on Thursday night, where he ended up smoking a joint and drinking whiskey with the host, probably is not going to help him. I do not see that as lending any more credibility to his ability to run this company and move it in the direction it needs to go.
No, not at all. This was on Joe Rogan last night. You can catch that on YouTube. And Elon, I don't know if you've ever seen Half Baked. He looked like Jim Brewer from Half Baked.
He did.
So It's just like, his eyebrows are up and he just looks, his eyes are glassed over. So this is not a good look for your CEO. So the question is, and of course, an executive just left this morning, I believe news came on.
Two, the chief accounting officer as well as the HR officer have left. And so it leaves pretty big holes. They've got some turnovers. Turnover happens, particularly in companies in California where it's a bit of a pressure cooker. It's more a function of can they get enough cars out the door to generate the cash that they need to keep this going forward with momentum to grow out the infrastructure, both in front of sales being the dealerships and then behind sales being service. I don't see it. I haven't seen it from the beginning. I'm glad that they were the pioneer, but as an old guy used to know, pioneers get shot, merchants get rich. Yeah. And so the guy who's at the front of the frontier typically isn't the one who succeeds. And so as we've told investors for a long time, if you want to put a little money into Tesla because you love it, that's great. Understand it's a gamble. It's not a place I would be because I see these really big hurdles coming. I'd be much more interested in some of the storied car companies like Daimler and BMW that are coming out with really good offerings, and even Tata Motors with the Jaguar, although they've got other issues that hold them back. So if it's a space you like, the Germans are probably the way to go.
Rodney, it's prediction time. 2 questions. Will Elon Musk remain the CEO of Tesla, will Tesla remain public?
Tesla will remain public, I believe, because I don't think they can afford to do anything else. Because taking it private requires cash. The only way that would happen is if somebody bought Tesla. Mm-hmm. Remember, Tesla comes with this anchor weight called Solar City that he bought from his cousin, kind of strange. So there's a lot of things going on there that's not just Tesla. Now, somebody could buy just the car company, of course.
Right.
But I do think it will remain public. Will he remain the CEO? I think what's more likely is that he will move to a founder role, and then he'll bring in somebody to help run it. This is very reminiscent of Apple, right? When Steve Jobs hired Scully from Pepsi to come run it, and then Steve Jobs stepped away. Apple didn't do very well. Steve Jobs came back, but he had this rogue area that was off creating stuff out of his head. And then he finally came back. So all sorts of crazy things that happened when Apple was trading at less than $1. I mean, less than $1. And so it feels like that, except with one big caveat. They burn so much cash, I don't see how they make it back.
Well, I can see it now. He'll come triumphantly return wearing a turtleneck. He'll have a blunt in one hand and a glass of whiskey in the other, and everyone will be cheering wildly, and Tesla will be incredibly successful, right?
That's a great story. I hope it works out that way. It's not going to be with my money.
Absolutely. Rather something to keep an eye on. Rodney, thanks so much for joining me. We'll all have our eyes on Tesla. Great discussion, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.